The overriding need for an air traffic control service is to enhance safety. All aspects of the provision of an air traffic control service are underwritten by the need to maintain and, where necessary, improve the quality of the service provided. Close liaison is imperative between the air traffic control service and all airspace users and aerodrome management. The objectives of air traffic services, ATS, are to prevent collisions between aircraft, both airborne and on the maneuvering area, and between aircraft and obstructions on the maneuvering area. Also, the air traffic services will expedite and maintain an orderly flow of air traffic, and provide advice and useful information to promote the safe and efficient conduct of flights. In the event of any unfortunate happening, the air traffic services will notify the appropriate organizations regarding aircraft in need of search and rescue aid and assist those organizations as required. There are three basic air traffic services. They are the Air Traffic Control Service, the Flight Information Service, and the Alerting Service. To enable it to prevent collisions between aircraft, both airborne and on the maneuvering area, and between aircraft and obstructions on the maneuvering area, and to expedite and maintain an orderly flow of air traffic, the Air Traffic Control Service is divided into three parts. They are the Area Control Service, the Approach Control Service, and the Aerodrome Control Service. The Area Control Service provides air traffic control for all controlled flights, except for arrivals, departures, and aerodrome traffic. The service is provided either by an area control center or by the unit providing the approach control service in a control zone or control area of limited extent, which is designated primarily for the provision of the approach control service and where no area control center is established. The Approach Control Service provides air traffic control for controlled flights for arrival or departure at an aerodrome. Approach control is provided either by an aerodrome control tower or area control center when it's necessary or desirable to combine the functions of the Approach Control Service or the Area Control Service, or by an Approach Control Office when it's necessary or desirable to establish a separate unit. Aerodrome Control provides an air traffic control service from the Aerodrome Control Tower for aerodrome traffic in the vicinity of the aerodrome. The Flight Information Service provides advice and useful information to promote the safe and efficient conduct of flights. The Alerting Service will notify the appropriate organizations regarding aircraft in need of search and rescue aid, and assist those organizations as required. You'll learn more about the Alerting Service later. Approach Control provides air traffic control to controlled flights departing from and arriving at aerodromes. Where IFR traffic is departing to join airways, the approach controller is the link between the aerodrome departure procedures and the airways joining procedures, and vice versa for arriving traffic. It's usual nowadays for radar to be used in approach control, although procedural approach control still exists. Where an aerodrome is in a control zone, approach control is mandatory, and the controller may be known as the zone controller. The approach control room may be at another aerodrome if there is more than one aerodrome in the control zone. Where an aerodrome is outside of a control zone, approach control, if it is established, is advisory. Where procedures are established for instrument approaches, the approach controller may delegate radar vectoring and monitoring of self-positioning to an approach radar controller, usually known as radar director. When the control of traffic is based on an air traffic control clearance, then that clearance is to specify the direction of takeoff and turn after takeoff, the track to be made good before proceeding on desired heading, the level to maintain before continuing climb to the assigned cruising level, and the time, point and/or rate at which any level change will be made. Departing aircraft may be expedited by suggesting a takeoff direction which is not into the wind. It's the responsibility of the pilot in command of an aircraft to decide between making such a takeoff or waiting for a normal takeoff in a preferred direction. When it's requested by the aircraft, and if it's prescribed by the appropriate Air Traffic Service Authority, a departing aircraft may be cleared to climb, subject to maintaining its own separation and it remaining in visual meteorological conditions until a specified time or to a specified location, if reports indicate that this is possible. Information regarding significant changes in the meteorological conditions in the takeoff or climb-out area is to be transmitted to departing aircraft by the approach controller without delay. Significant changes in this context include those relating to surface wind direction or speed, visibility, runway visual range, or air temperature for turbine-engined aircraft, and the occurrence of thunderstorm or cumulonimbus, moderate or severe turbulence, wind shear, hail, moderate or severe icing, severe squall line, freezing precipitation, severe mountain waves, sandstorm, dust storm, blowing snow, tornado or waterspout. Arriving aircraft being handed over to approach from airways, may be required to report when leaving or passing a reporting point, or when starting a procedure turn or base turn, or to provide other information required by the controller to expedite departing aircraft. When requested by the aircraft, and if so prescribed by the appropriate Air Traffic Service Authority, an arriving aircraft may be cleared to descend, subject to maintaining its own separation and it remaining in visual meteorological conditions, if reports indicate that this is possible. There is no legal requirement for an aerodrome which is used for VFR flight only to have an aerodrome controller. If, however, the aerodrome is to be used for commercial air transport under IFR, it must be licensed, and part of the license requirement is for aerodrome control to be provided by licensed air traffic controllers. Usually referred to as either local or tower, or just by the name of the aerodrome on radio telephony, the aerodrome controller is required to provide air traffic control services at controlled aerodromes. At non-controlled aerodromes, an aerodrome flight information service may be provided by a Flight Information Service Officer, FISO. Aerodrome control towers issue information and clearances to aircraft under their control to achieve a safe, orderly and expeditious flow of air traffic on and in the vicinity of an aerodrome, with the object of preventing collisions between aircraft airborne in the circuit and also between aircraft and vehicles and obstructions on the ground. The tower is required to pass information by radio telephony to aircraft at various stages of their flight, such as prior to taxiing, prior to takeoff, and prior to entering the traffic pattern. When taxiing an aircraft, the pilot's vision can be limited. The aerodrome controller will issue instructions and information to assist the pilot to determine the correct taxi route and to avoid collisions with other aircraft or objects. Aircraft may be permitted to taxi on the runway in use. Aircraft are not to be held closer to the runway in use than a runway holding position. An aircraft may be permitted to enter the runway and hold during operations after the landing aircraft has passed the intended landing point.